time has come to flush out those extremists in our own parliamentary politics and around it, some of whom are at the very top of government or have been. We should stop arms sales immediately. I think that anything in support of what is becoming a total catastrophe in Gaza is morally unacceptable. And what we have to accept is not just what they're doing now is wrong, it's what Israel's been doing for years has been wrong, because the Israeli Defense Force does not follow international law. It has been backing and supporting illegal settlers in the West Bank who steal Palestinian land. And it is that land theft, that annexation of Palestine, which is the origin of the problem, which has given rise to the Hamas atrocity and the battles we're seeing. The trouble is, there are a lot of people at the top of our own politics who refuse to condemn settlements and therefore are not supporters of international law. And I think the time has come to flush out those extremists in our own parliamentary politics and around it, some of whom are at the very top of government or have been, and they have never been called to account by journalists and the press to say, well, do you agree with your own party's policy? Do you condemn illegal settlements? And I will name them now in a minute, because they don't. And it's high time, I think, that they were exposed.
Go ahead. I'm not going to get in your way in the naming, sir.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, the Conservative Friends of Israel has been doing the bidding of Netanyahu, bypassing all proper processes of government to exercise undue influence at the top of government. So what you have is a lot of people now sitting around Rishi Sunak who are giving him appalling advice. Let's start with the head of CFI, or has been for many years, Lord Pollack. In my view, I think he should be removed from the Lords because he is exercising the interest of another country, not that of the parliament in which he sits. Joined, I have to say, by Lord Pickles. They're the sort of Laurel and Hardy who should be pushed out together. But at the top, I mean, slightly improved by the removal of Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman, although even today, she is still supporting Israel and the bombing and the annihilation of people in Gaza. And she does not believe that settlements are wrong, nor, I suspect, do Michael Gove, Oliver Dowden, and Priti Patel, by the way, should be reinvestigated for her visit. We still don't know who paid for her trip when she came back and tried to change government policy as a result of going on a secret trip without actually telling her officials or even the local ambassador. And if you pick up Wikipedia and you read the entry for Tom Tugendhat, who is our security minister, it says, and I'll read it out, he condemned the United Nations Security Council for its official criticism of Israel's building settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories. Now, that may have been some years ago, but he's never removed that. He's never changed his view. How can you have a security minister in the British government who does not believe in international law when all this is going on? I think he should be sacked.
So, Alan, does Israel have a right to defend itself?
It does in certain circumstances, but in the right way. So, by the way, do Palestinians who are bashed up by illegal settlers supported by the Israeli Defense Force have the right to defend themselves, because they are the ones who are originally being attacked. But if they try and do that, they're then called terrorists. Now, there's defense and there's defense. You cannot say that killing 30,000 people has been precision targeting. And if you have proper precision targeting, then yes, that is behaving properly within the rules of law. But I think the death of these aid workers shows that that is not working.
I have to put to you that the IDF would say that of those 30,000, and it's a tragedy that people have died, many of them were Hamas terrorists, is what the IDF would say to you, Sir Alan.
Yes, well, many of them probably were, but not 30,000. And how do they know? And when you bomb a hospital, you say, oh, it's full of terrorists. Well, I'm afraid the fact is you cannot just pile into a strip of land with 2 million people in it, which has been basically imprisoned for decades, and somehow say that, oh, it's all their fault when they fight back. So what we now have in Gaza is imposed famine. That is not following the rules that you just questioned me about, imposed to the point where we, as Brits, have to build a pontoon to try and take food into Gaza for a starvation famine which has been caused by the Israelis. And, try to count to 30,000. Try just to count to the number of people who are kids with no parents, no families, no limbs. Then I think you will realize what's going on in Gaza.
Nothing can compare with your robust views on the situation, but I do have to put one domestic story to you, noting, of course, and you won't be offended by this, you are a veteran MP. You actually go back to being a Conservative in the days of Tony Blair, which was quite a rarity. The Conservatives, we read this morning, Sir Alan, are on a course for a worse general election result than Sir John Major's in 1997. This is a result of a detailed seat-by-seat poll, Labour winning more than 400 seats. Tory turmoil on the way, Sir Alan?
Oh, yes, and it's been going on for years. And all these very silly people on the hard right who think that only if we went further to the right, everything would be okay, are absolutely crazy. The fact is, the turmoil, the division, the factionalism has made the Conservative government, in the eyes of so many people, completely unworthy of government. And people need to knuckle under, support Rishi Sunak, but frankly, he's really up against it now. These people who continue to fight within the Conservative Party, the likes of Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman and people like that, are quite simply going to destroy it for more than a generation.
Lastly, there is a suggestion that one person could be called to the ranks for the campaigning. Boris Johnson. Could he help stave off a Conservative at this level of Conservative defeat?
No, I think it would go downhill further if that were to happen.
Really? Why is that, Sir Alan?
He's no longer popular. It's a complete myth. And all he'd do is remind people of the turmoil, of the, if you like, the ramshackle nature of government, where he was hopelessly irresponsible. It would compound the problem, and it would not rescue us in any way whatsoever.
Enjoyed our time together. Strong views robustly put by Sir Alan Duncan, veteran Conservative MP, stood down now, of course, served as Minister in the Foreign Office and Department for International Development.